If you want to know a person, if you want to know a person's true color or true character, watch him when he is excited. Excitement are two types of excitement which are opposite each other. One excitement is the excitement when you are very happy. For example, if you are to get a phone call now and be told that you have won 1,000,000 shillings, that one you get excited. And there is another excitement which is less known, is when you are moody, irritated. That is also excited. When a person is very happy and or very annoyed, that is when that person is excited. When a person has lost all hopes, or when a person thinks that he is on the top of the world, that is excitement. It becomes better if the two extremes happen alternatively within a very short time. For example, you can be very much annoyed and very much happy. We all do. But then, from the period when you are very happy to when you are sad, and vice versa, changes from different circumstances. You can be very happy now and spend a week, a month, or even a year to be the opposite. But then there is also other alternatives where you change that within hours. You wake up in the morning very happy. By lunchtime, you are very much annoyed, and by evening, you are back to where you are very happy. So it becomes better if the two extremes happen alternatively within a very short time. For an intelligence officer, that is when you can now, he or she, that is when an intelligence officer can clearly evaluate you. There are times when suddenly you are very happy. Before you realize it, you are very much annoyed. In that situation, your true color comes out. And that is one of the systems that was introduced by intelligence officers at Nyayo House torture chambers. That is, even without beating somebody or physically harming somebody, change a person's condition alternatively within even minutes from two extremes. And even the two extremes would even include the extreme of weather, whereby the person is in a cooling condition, such as a fridge. Then within no time, the person moves from winter to summer. In such situations, you find that the person getting intelligence from such a person is very easy for intelligence officers. That's why I usually advise that whenever your feelings are in uh, extremes, don't share even with your closest ally your feelings. Don't tell even your closest allies yours. There are those occasions when you are very happy. Whatever your feelings, please don't share it. Or you find next minute you are very much annoyed. Don't share your feelings with anybody, however close he or she is. But I request that you note it down in a notebook and read it at a later situation, where you'll realize that time when I was very happy, this is what I felt. And when I was very much annoyed, this is what I felt. Why am I saying so? Supposing you just receive a phone call that you have received 1,000,000 shillings. Okay, nowadays we have people who con people. You get phone calls from committee telling you or whatever. But I'm not talking about committee. I am talking about a genuine winning of money. supposing you get 1,000,000 shillings out of nowhere, you may find that the next person you meet with, you will promise that person something. You'll, for example, I get 1,000,000. I meet you, I say, I'll give you 50,000 shillings for your soda because I know I have 1,000,000 shillings. By the time evening reaches, I have promised around 20 people. I will have done whatever before even withdrawing the money, such that by the time I start withdrawing the money, I will have realized, I will have realized that I've promised people more than even the 1,000,000 that I got. So when you are very happy, please don't promise anybody anything. But if you feel strongly about it, write it on a piece of paper in your notebook. Later on, when the circumstances are okay, read it. And if you still have that feeling of being philanthropic, then you can give that money to that person, or you can give the money to that person after an amended figure. Maybe you wanted to give that person 50,000, but after you have cooled down, after you have estimated the money, because I've just said that by the time everything goes back to normal, you may have realized that you have promised people a total of 1.5 million when you only got 1,000,000. So when you have cooled down, you look at the person, you feel yes, that person is entitled to some money, but you cannot afford the 50,000. Maybe you can afford 5,000. That is when you give. So don't promise anybody anything when you're happy, and don't castigate anybody when you are annoyed. It happens that when you are annoyed, you may talk things which may be counterproductive when reviewed later. Have you read the book Government Inspector by Nikolai Kogol? When people had a one-on-one discussion with a so-called VIP, they betrayed the mayor. When they remained, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, when they remained with the government inspector, the person whom they suspected to be the government inspector, they started talking bad about the mayor. What happened later? When the so-called government inspector had gone and the town remained back to its normal situation, at that time the mayor thought that the government inspector is going to marry his daughter, and he felt that he was going to move out of that small town and go to Moscow. What did he do? At that time, he believed, everybody believed that he was now lucky and things are going to happen his way. That is what they believed. And when they believed, even he himself. But let us look at the mayor at that particular time. The mayor at that particular time, when all things were working for him, and he was sure that he's going to be more powerful than he is, and he knew that the people had betrayed him, he unconditionally forgave them. That is the power of religion. That is, imagine when your enemy is down at your feet, where you can do anything to him or her, but you forgive that person unconditionally. That is what I'm saying. When you are happy, when you're excited, be careful with what you do. As we speak now, Rigathi Gachagua is excited by the outcome of that judgment, where they said that the Deputy Chief Justice had no power to start a three judge bench to determine that case. Already, Gachagua is behaving as if his impeachment has been cleared. When we look at the timing, we understand why he kept on postponing the launch of his political party. And also, when we look at timing, we know why he's launching it up when things appear, and I repeat the word appear, to be working for him. So he's trying to use that. But he has used the outcome of the case as a springboard to start his political party. But as I said, the overexcitement of the small win revealed who Gachagua is. As I have said before, what the judgment did was to restart the process. It was not a win for Gachagua. It was to restart the process. Now, if the thing would have restarted before Kindiki was sworn in, then they would have postponed the swearing in of Kindiki. But now, if they restart it and he wins, there is no way he's going to dethrone Kindiki. It is only that if he has used the small excitement to start his political party, should the whole process restart and he wins, it will be bad news to one William Ruto and Kindiki. The way Rigathi is behaving is as though he has won the case. But it is what some people say, that the case has been taken back to factory setting. Factory setting. So they start with stage one and so on. He has even let his people to tell Kindiki to vacate the current residence. That is why I had a long story of saying that some people, when they are overexcited, they have to be very careful, because the way they behave, they may shoot themselves in the foot. Briefly, how the case is, it says that the Chief Justice should assemble a new bench, preferably a three-judge bench. It briefly says that the Chief Justice should assemble a new bench to start the process afresh. Whoever loses at that level, at the High Court level, will have a chance to appeal to the Court of Appeal. And whoever loses at the Court of Appeal, as I've said before, will now appeal to the Supreme Court of Kenya. But remember, this case of impeachment, the Court of Appeal is final. It is only whoever will go to the Supreme Court will only have to go there and say that the process was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has only what they call the mandate to interpret the constitutionality of a case. Now, if you go to the Supreme Court, you will not appeal. If you go to the Supreme Court, you will not appeal for the case of Court of Appeal. No. You will have to come up with constitutional interpretation, which, if read by the Supreme Court of Kenya, it will determine that there are some constitutional loopholes that made the case not to be favoring you. So it is quite possible that right now, as Rigathis case will go to the three-judge bench, after the three-judge bench has decided, the losing side will most definitely go to the Court of Appeal. And even at the Court of Appeal, the losing side, if it has to go to the Supreme Court of Kenya, it will not be on appeal. It will be on constitutional matters. It will be interpreted by the Supreme Court of Kenya that some of the things were unconstitutionally done, that it has to restart again the factory setting. Let me call it factory setting. It will have to restart at the factory setting afresh. So it may go on that way until 2027. And at the High Court and the Supreme Court, things could go either way. But I am predicting that whichever side will lose at the three-judge bench, definitely they will appeal at the Court of Appeal. And whichever side will lose at the Court of Appeal will definitely go to the Supreme Court for constitutional interpretation. For constitutional interpretation. And if the Supreme Court interprets that judgment was not there, if it decides that fairness was not there because of some constitutional, some constitutional failures at a certain level, then the case will still go to that level. For example, if the Supreme Court says that the constitutionality was not done at the at the High Court, then they will restart at the High Court. But if they decide that it was not fair at the Court of Appeal, then it will restart at the Court of Appeal. It is quite possible that this case may go on for long until 2027. We long knew that Gachagua is his worst enemy. Just like Ruto, when he sees a crowd and he talks, that is when he comes up with stories such as uh, coming up with a machine that produces 1,000,000 chapatis and him talking to a dead person and agreeing to sell land to him. As with Gachagua, anytime he thinks that he has won anything, he is full of himself. And Gachagua's second problem is what Gunjiri said. He wants to dictate the mountain. He thinks that he could use the Raila system. He could use Raila's system to do what Raila does in Luo Nyanza. He wants it to do it in Luo, in the mountain. He wants to do what Nani does in the Luo Nyanza. He wants to do it in the mountain. Within hours of the outcome of the case, he is shooting himself in the foot. Mrima people are uncomfortable with his dictatorship of pretending to be listening to people, but he is dictating that. He is dictating to say, either you follow his way or the highway. He is in the forefront of a 2002 like situation. Of course, the 2002 situation was different because they didn't take long. You see, if you go against those in power and you start organizing things very early, those in power can have time to counter you. Take an example of how the power were threatened just around this date last year, how the Gen Z threatened those in power. But ask those in power today if at all they know what Gen Z is, and they'll tell you that they have never heard of that thing. So what I'm saying that one of the reasons why the 2002 galvanization worked was because it took a very short time and it came at the tail end of the presidency. Tail end, I mean, they last the 5 years. And it was also the second tail end because it was the second term, second and final term of the outgoing president. But trying to use that system early enough and using the same system on a president who still wants to go for the second term, it may be a bit a tall order. I don't know why he's picking up an unnecessary wars with Matiang'i. There are sometimes, okay, if you want to fight, there are some people you just don't fight. They say, Bob Marley used to say, if the cape fits, then wear it. And then there is a saying that my grandfather, Benson Kareithi, used to say, Wera morute doenda gogodhokyo. If things are working, why should you bring if your vehicle is working, why should you bring a mechanic to come and look over it? Eh? Matiang'i and others, Kina Eugene and others, were in the process of joining up together with the Gachagua to make Ruto a one-term. Then he's starting a civil war within that same group by turning over to Matiang'i. Eh? You know, he wants Matiang'i to leave Jubilee and start his party. You know, he has started just this small win. He has started a situation where he wants Matiang'i to not do anything with the Jubilee because he knows that Jubilee will eat into the mountain votes. So him, and you see, those who know Gachagua, Gachagua is not a diplomat. Gachagua is a dictator. So he's ordering Matiang'i to start a party for the Kisses, so that he comes up with a Mrima DCP party. But then Matiang'i, if today Matiang'i is just what do you call Uhuru part 2. Matiang'i is Uhuru part 2. So attacking Matiang'i is calling for a war against Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Some people believe that he has mended ways with Uhuru Muigai. Some people believe that Rigathi has mended ways with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But I doubt that. There's no time. Okay, someone may say, okay, they just as they had mended it. No, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, even if he pretends to work with the Ruto, or even if he pretends to work with the Gachagua, my knowing is that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta will never forgive Rigathi. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta will never forgive Ruto. So, but in case that is true, why then attack Matiang'i? Why then attack Matiang'i? Do you expect he's okay? It is being said that he has mended ways with the Uhuru. Now, when you attack Matiang'i, especially telling him get out of Jubilee and start your own party, and then he tells him go and start a small party for that small tribe of yours called Kisii. For a person who has been a Dio, he should know that Kisiis are a different people altogether. You may know a Kisii for 20 years, maybe you have associated with him for 20 years, and then he finds you in a heated argument or debate with another Kisii, whom he has only known 20 minutes ago. But so long as you a non-Kisii are arguing with a Kisii, the Kisii whom you have known each other for 20 years, he would rather side with a Kisii whom he has known for 20 minutes. So, Rigathi, by attacking Gachagua, no, I'm sorry, Rigathi, after attacking Matiang'i, especially trying to associate his tribe with being a small tribe, obviously he has lost it, and I don't see how supposing he wins the what do you call? Suppose he wins the impeachment case. I don't think he will get votes from Kisii land unless he withdraws his attack on Matiang'i and Kisii tribe. That one, you can take it to the bank. Of course, it is possible for Rigathi to be uncomfortable with Jubilee because